So as I said, we have covered everything, all the basics of the Terraform and all the things, how we can write the Terraform code and to automate our infrastructure, right? We have seen writing the provider blocks, we have seen writing the resources, few resources, we saw creating EC2 instances and all. With respect to some other stuffs we have already covered, now we are going to see something the variables. Okay, as I said, I'm just going to cover the things, I'm just going to show you. As I said, it is a vast course, and if I go each things in detail to do the exercises, it will take lots of time, right? So to save the time, I'm just going to explain you everything with the code snippet and all. I'll just explain how you have to do it, and I'll share the code with the GitHub repository. Share the link. You can just download and do practice. So always I say people, right? See, do by yourself. Okay, whatever the code will be available, don't just copy paste and just run it. There, then you'll not learn anything, right? So what do? Do practice by yourself. Just keep the code for your reference, right? Not copy paste and just run the code. Obviously, it will work because it has already been tested, right? So just write yourself the code. You have to write yourself. Okay, not wasting more time. So what we can do, we'll go with the variables. Like each and every languages or tools or automations, the variable has a major role there, right? So when we need the variables, like to make the code dynamically change as per the inputs or the variables setup, right? So you would have seen like few codes people, what do you do if they have no ideas how to put the logics there, right? See, that time what do? We hard code everything, right? We just put a value there and just execute the code, write the script, write the program. So what's the problem with hard coding the stuff? You have to execute that program for one particular stuff, for particular role or particular executions, right? If you want to do for multiple things, for multiple automations, that will be difficult. For that, you have to dynamically change the values, whatever you have hard coded. For that, we need the variables to be passed, to be used. The same thing, right? In every cases, right? Everywhere, in every programming, everywhere, we have to use the variables. It has a major role. So let's understand what exactly the variable is and how we can use in Terraform code. So in three ways we can store the variables, right? Three ways I'll show you how we can store the variables. All variables to be stored in a file called terraform.tf-vars. The default variable can be stored in a file called variables.tf. We'll just see one small example on that. I'll show you. Okay. As I said, all the variables in Terraform, you have to put a file name called as terraform.tf-vars, or the extension should be tf-vars, and the default variable, it should be kept is as variables.tf or vars.tf. Variables can be referenced as var.variable name in the main tf file. So here is a small example here. Here you can see we have just declared a variable, and the declaration how it should be like variable name of the, here is the variable, the word you have to write variable, and you have to give the name of the variable like this. Suppose public IP, and default value I have given like this. If the variable has not stored under this terraform.tf parts, then what will happen? The value from the variable file, the default one, will be taken. If it is stored in the terraform tf.tf vars, then that will be captured. So how we'll call these variables? It will be so easy, guys. You have to simply use, as I said, var dot variable name. So var See, within the square bracket, we have just written var dot the variable name. What is the variable name here? The variable name is pub underscore IP. Pub underscore IP. Any name you can give for public IP, right? So here, what will happen? The CIDR blocks now is getting this particular stuff, right? Now let's see how in different ways we can find set up the variables. That is most important, guys. How we can pass the variables in different ways, right? Multiple approach to variable assignment. So variable in Terraform can be assigned in multiple ways. As I said, environment variables, command line flags from a file, and variable defaults. So whatever we saw in our previous slide, it is just default variables. So we have to yet see about this environment variable and command line flags. So if you see this particular example here, if no explicit value is defined, then default value will be used. Now let's see this particular code snippet. If you see here, this is the default variable defaults, right? And here we have given the variable name as instance type, variable instance type. So if the instance type default value is the T2 micro, right? So if you want to make it and pass the variable in or during the command line executions, right? In the command line. So how you have to do? You have to use this hyphen var flag. Hyphen var flags equal to instance type, the variable name equal to the value. So what happened? We are explicitly passing the variable during the command line executions. So here the default is passed as T2 micro. But here, while executing, while planning, what we are doing, we are passing the external variable with the hyphen var flag, and we are passing the variable as T2 small. If you don't pass these particular things during this execution, this command executions, what will happen? It will take the default value. Is it clear, guys? If you have any doubt, you can just ask me. Okay. So this is how you have to, yeah. So this is how you have to do it. Now, if I see the next one, here, see, is a simple declarations we given. What is this? Is given variable instance type and is given. It is nothing is specified. No value is assigned here. It's a no default thing is given. That is also valid declaration, right? But if you don't give any default value and you execute the command, what will happen? It will ask you to specify a value. var.provide, enter a value. I'll show you some example, right? So that is one. And the terraform.tf vars also, you have to keep the files, right? So again, environment variables. The environment variables. So environment variables, every code like shell scripting or Python, what we have seen, we just create a variable, assign a value, and make it global. In Jenkins, we have seen, right? So it has some global environment variables, right? That variable is everywhere in the pipeline code, anywhere in the pipeline code, right?
Yeah, Ranjit, in the previous slide, we have not mentioned that variable, right? Instance. The previous slide.
Okay.
See, variable were declared as instance type, but
Yes.
in the actual code, we are not calling the instance type, right? Because we have used the public IP as a variable.
Where?
Yeah, in the second, no, in slide 32. Here, like we are declaring the variable as
No, don't get confused. Exactly. Don't get confused. This is just for example to show you, just for the things. It's not exactly example. This is just showing you how you can write it.
Okay.
This is one way to write and passing. If you don't specify any default value, if you execute it, it will be displaying it, right? And here it's given. Suppose here you can just, that's a good catching also, but let me just change it. Right? That's good. Thank you. So here, I'm using public IP, suppose, right? If you want to use instance type, then here it will come the instance type, right? And here enter a value.
Yeah.
Or else what we can do, let me keep this instance type and change this one as instance type.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good finding. Thank you, Joyceline. So here, var dot instance type is t2 small. But here, this code is something different. Okay, don't get confused. But here we should have this instance type, var dot instance type. Okay, that's good. Now, this is the environment variables. We can just use the if you are using Unix. You can use export command and give a command tfvars underscore instance type. So here what happens whenever you are declaring the environment variables in Terraform, the environment variables can be set like tf underscore var underscore instance type. So tf underscore vars in the uppercase, if you're putting it like this, what it indicates, this particular, what it indicates that the variable instance type is an environment variable, is an environment variable. Okay. So here we can, if you are going for Unix format or Linux machine, then you have to just use it like this. Export tf, if you are good in Unix, you know this export command, right? So we are creating the environment variable. Similarly, in Windows, we have to set x command to set this as t2 micro is the environment variable for the instance type. Okay. So what we are going to do here, as I said, like we can use this external variables, right? We can use these variables, environment variables in that. So now let's go ahead and see data types. Okay, before moving to the data types, let's see some examples here. Like here is one is the variable demo. Okay, what we have written here. Okay, now instead of going and give you this demo, let me show you whatever we have in our last class. In our last class, what we have done, we have, suppose, let's go to the resource demo folder. Resource demo folder. Okay, so here what we had created, guys, we had created one sd dot like security group, one server.tf which contains the instance to be created, right? EC2 instances. So here what happened, this particular instance, if I just open it, we have this instance type is t2 micro. Let's make it a variable. Let's make it a variable. Also, this image also is having this particular image ID. Let's make it, because this is hard coded, right? This is hard coded. So we are going to make variables for this particular ID. So how we can do that? So as I just explained to you, right? I just explained you how we can write the variables. Suppose let me just write a file called vi variable or vi vars.tf, vi vars.tf, and here I'm just going to create some variables. So for variables, what I'm going to, you have to write called, sorry, okay. So just type variable, right? Give a variable name. This is the syntax, right? So variable name, suppose I'm going to create the variable name as image, right? AMI. So for the AMI, suppose I'll give the image here. Suppose the variable name is image. And similarly, I'm going to create another variable, okay? And that name is, suppose I'll put it here as, suppose I'm going to put it as instance name, right? I'm going to put as instance name or instance type. I'm going to put it as instance type here. So two variables I created, right? Let me do here for the image. Okay, for the image, what we can do, we can put a default value. We have to put a default value. Suppose the you have to write default equal to put the image. So you have to put it there. And similarly, we have to also put a default instance type. Default instance type. Okay. So default instance type, suppose I'll put as t2.micro. T2.micro is my default instance type. So like default image, let me just copy the image ID. Okay. So this image ID, I need to be put it over there, right? Copy var, sorry, vi. So here I'm just going to put this default as my done. So I created two variables here. One is the instance type and the other one is the image. Two variables, I put it there. Now let's go ahead and how we have declared these two variables. How we'll call it? I will assign, how we'll call it in the Terraform file, right? So let's go there and we have to just go to the server.tf where we have to call these variables, right? Now this AMI is hard coded, right? We have given the image ID. Now remove from here. Now remove from the code. So what will go here? We'll just remove this one. Removed it here. Now, how we'll call these variables? The syntax is var dot variable name. For variable name for AMI is image. We had given var dot image. Now, similarly, this one also we can remove it. Put it here. Var dot instance type. So two variables I just created for you to show you how it works. You can create as much as you want. Similarly, you can create for the security group also. Here in the security group, if you want to, in the CIDR block or this port range, if you want to create variables, you can also still create some variables here to provide the ones. Okay. Now let's go ahead. Here we have this vars.tf file. Default is created. Default values are created. Now what I can do, let's use this Terraform plan and see how it works. Terraform plan. Instead of this square bracket, let's remove this square bracket, right? There it has not given square bracket, right? Let's remove this square bracket. Let's see if it is working. Wow. It's now working. See? Yes, we got this T2 micro here and we just got this image ID. We have to call very plain like var.image or var.variable name. Okay, var dot.
I have a doubt. This is taking a variable from the variable.tf or the tf var? From where it is taken?
Okay, let me just remove this file. Okay, I'll do one thing. That's good questions. Now, what we can do here? Now, what we'll do? We have this tf vars, right? Terraform.tf vars. Let me just rename this file to something else. Okay, rename this file to something else. So what I can do, mv terraform.tf vars, right? And then I just give a underscore terraform vars one something. Let me rename this. Okay, done. Sorry. Now what I do, if I just do terraform plan, I have removed this file. I have just renamed this file or removed this file. Okay, what will happen? It gets same informations. So where it is getting this information? It's getting the information from the default variables.tf file. Okay, variables.tf file. It's getting the default from. Okay. Now, if I amend this file, let me just remove this default. Okay, I removed this default value. I did not give any default value here. Okay. Now, if I just execute it, what will happen? It's just asking me var.image. Provide the image ID. Now let's provide this image. Now it will ask for the instance type. Let's give the T2 micro here. Now it will plan the resource for us. Okay. See, if you remove the instance.tf bars, if you don't want to put this value during these executions, right? You don't want to provide input manually. So what you have to do? You have to create a file called terraform.tf bars. Terraform.tf bars. So now we have the file terraform.tf bars. Now, and in this variables.tf, we don't have default value. We don't have default value, right? We don't have default value. Now, if I just do Terraform plan, see, this time what will happen? It will get this variable information from this file. Okay, see, it got this value from T2 micro and all, it got this file. Now, if I just, is it clear, guys? Everything clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now let's move on quickly. Something different. Okay, I used some data types, right? I used the data types like type equal to string. So let's understand what is this data type. So every programming language or every scripting, whatever we are learning, we will be seeing like some kind of data types, right? What are those data types? That is the type constraint. It will say the type argument is variable block allows us to restrict the type of value that will be accepted as the value of the variables. Type string or type number, type string and type number. So the type string, whatever you are giving it here, the type string means only string will be passed, and number, only number will be passed. If no type constraint is set, then value of any type is accepted. This is very important point. What is Sage? If no type constraint is set, then a value of any type is accepted. If you don't give type constraint here, and if you just remove it, what will happen? It will just take based on the value we set it up. Based on the value you set it up, it will take as it is. Suppose you put a string, it will take automatically string. If you put a number, it will take automatically number if you don't specify any constraint type here. Okay. While executing, if you don't specify the correct type, then it will throw error. Invalid value for input variables. Okay. Now let's see the example very quickly. Okay. Let's see the example very quickly. Suppose vi variables.tf, and suppose here the instance type I'll put as number. Instead of string, I put number. So what will happen? It will give us error like invalid input value. Invalid input values. Okay, let's see. See, invalid value for input variables. Because it is instance type is required number, but here we have given string. That is how you have to put the types, right? Now let me correct it. I corrected. Now let's go ahead and see more. These are the types, data types available. One is the string, number, boolean, right? List, map, and null. This is very simple, guys. String, a sequence of Unicode characters like hello, whatever the string, you have to just write characters, right? You have to put it there. Number, alphanumeric. Boolean is true or false, the conditional logic, right? Either true or false. So this, you have to put it there in the Boolean part. List is kind of array. If you have little ideas on the programming or some, you can know, like arrays, right? Arrays consist of group of data, right? Group of value or sequence of values. Like if you are just using, then you have to go for list. If you want, suppose if you have created one variable as type string or number, you have to pass only one value. Suppose you want to use multiple values, right? Multiple values. How you will pass it? Then you have to use the list. Map or object, see list or tuple, map or object. A group of values identify named is as, it's called the key value pair. The key is name, value is Marvel, or key is age, value is 52, right? So that is called map. And null, if you don't want to give anything, just put it absent or remove it, you can just specify null. It will use arguments default value if it has one, or raise any an error if there is argument is mandatory. Null is most useful in conditional expression, so you can dynamically omit on argument. So this is a task for you. You just do and change, keep changing the types and do the practice of doing that one. Okay. Now let's move on this fetching data from map. This some example here we have given. We saw fetching data from the string and number. Now here, if you see example, you have created a map called as variable this, and type is map. You have to give a type is map, and here the type is list. We saw the type is string and number. Now other two, you can just give type as map. That map should be used as key value pair. As I said, this key for this app south one, the instance type should be T2 micro. For app south, for US East one, the instance type should be T2 nano. Like this you can use. So you have to correlate where you can use this kind of type, map or list. Here is the list, right? Suppose for list type default this particular